This section looks at some vital elements of energy policy and governance. We define energy policy as the manner in which government or any other corporate entity decides to address issues of development, including planning, conversion, and so on, up to usage in the value chain of energy. The International Energy Agency defines energy as a fundamental framework that binds consumers, markets, technologies, stakeholders, regulators, information, and data. So the key elements of good energy policy include security, equity, sustainable growth, and environmental sustainability. So security evaluates the reliability of a given infrastructure. This can be compromised at both local and international level. By definition, security is about the low vulnerability of energy system, and there are too many ideas embedded in that definition. The first one is that the concept of security is not just a blanket definition. It depends on the type of energy. It could be, say, a fuel, or it could be electricity, and each one of them is looked at differently in terms of security. The second idea is about vulnerability, and it's comprised of three areas of concern. For example, the first one is about control. Who controls these resources? Are we importing from a single supplier, which is the most risky proposition, or are we importing from several suppliers? That is risky, but less risky. Or are we producing domestically? That's under the scenarios is the lowest. The second one is about robustness. If it were resources underground, the question asked, how many years, decades of stock do we still have underground? If it were an infrastructure, how ready is this infrastructure to hold up to any threats? The third one is about resilience. Should we take a hit? Should we have a disruption? How long does this infrastructure get back into service? Equity is about accessibility and affordability. You could have plenty access, which is without the affordability. We see it quite often in Africa, especially in the rural, where power lines are available cross-country, but the cost of connecting to an individual residence or farm is prohibitively high. For example, some cities like Cape Town have historically reserved a certain minimum number of units of electricity for vulnerable communities. The necessary ingredients for sustainable policy: you need political consensus, you need clear long vision, good leadership. Stable institutions include good governance, it includes strong utilities, it includes regulators, it includes the justice system and the rule of law. It includes good leadership, stakeholder engagement, understanding what the consumers' priorities are. Strategy is just a plan of executing the policy. So there is a cluster of common terminology such as conservation, efficiency, DSM, renewable energy, rational use of energy, smart grids, and so on. But these terms we keep mentioning around, do we really know what they mean? I mean, is conservation the same as efficiency? Can we swap them around? The answer is no. Conservation is about actions one takes to reduce waste or to mitigate the waste of scarce resources. For example, if one is leaving a room and there is nobody else and the lights are on, the act of switching off passes as conservation. But conservation must not involve self-deprivation. The service must not be compromised for conservation to be considered as conservation. On the other hand, efficiency is just a metric, it's a number. It's a comparison between the amount of input energy to the amount of usefulness that is derived out of energy. Lighting is a simple example, electric lighting. In the olden days, we had the incandescent light, and a 100-watt bulb was good enough for reading. Currently, you could go and purchase a 15-watt bulb from light emitting diode technology, and you derive the same amount of brightness to read. So the efficiency, the 15-watt bulb is more efficient than the 100-watt bulb, since they both give the same output, which is the lumens. But this could be seen as, again, a technocratic micro view of the definition. An economist might look at a more macro view and aggregate of the national or regional level. And usually GDP, energy consumption per GDP or per capita, is the metric used. Then we come to economic efficiency, which is really the ultimate thing, and it looks at optimal harvesting of resources, processing, looking at the entire value chain, delivery and allocation, which must be equitable, and utilization, which must minimize waste. The entire value chain must minimize waste. Energy intensity, as we have seen, looks at the totality of energy consumed for every GDP of growth of an economy. There are some guiding figures from literature. You look at South Africa, which is supposed to be one of the best performing economies in Africa. They have a GDP which is, they consume twice as much energy per GDP as Korea, and yet Korea has twice as much energy per capita. So the Korean economy clearly performs a lot better in terms of energy efficiency. If you look at OECD at the bottom, it's even much better than even Korea itself. So that's an index. We have these new terminologies such as energy transition, transactive energy, blockchain is a true, grid edge, user-centric, active citizenship. All these last four terms refer to a smart consumer, an empowered consumer, a consumer who is not passive, waiting for the utility to make decisions, but a consumer who make their own decisions. Then we have energy transition as one of the terms, means if an eventual structure change, thinking out of the box, looking at new concepts, smarter in terms of energy value chains. For example, when we look at efficient transport, we don't focus exclusively on fuel efficiency, but we look at mobility efficiency. How efficiently can we move entire workforces, entire populations from one place to another? Then we look at other smart solutions such as telecommuting. So networks become transport and energy service providers. At the end of this part, we will next look at part 3, which is the path to the fourth African Industrial Revolution, where we examine the challenges faced in this path. Thank you.